Hello lovely people, and a happy Pride Month to you all.
Sophie vlogs.
I've been off gallivanting around Ireland for the first few days of June, and as I was wandering around Dublin and Cork, I obviously went to a lot of bookshops, and I really loved seeing all the different Pride displays, and I thought to myself, Sophie, you love an excuse to do a reading theme, you love queer books, the time is ripe. So I put together just like a bunch of books that I'm hoping to read this Pride Month, and I thought I would run through them with you. I will start with my fiction and then move on to my non-fiction. I've got like a fairly even split, potentially weighing heavier into non-fiction, but we shall see. First up, it's Small Beauty by G.H. Wilson Yang. This follows, what is your name? May. She abandons life in the big city to move to a small town in the wake of the death of her cousin. She connects with her aunt and discovers about this secret relationship that her aunt has been having, and she's also reflecting on the trans women in her life, stuff like that. This comes recommended to me by Actual Spinster, whose book taste I find very interesting, so definitely really intrigued to check this one. I've heard that it's a really beautiful book, so definitely looking forward to diving in. I also have Diary of a Provincial Lesbian by V.G. Lee. This is, I believe, like a humorous little book. It's set in, it's like small town life in the south of England. Oh, it juggles very funny encounters with next door neighbours Deirdre and Martin, work colleagues like Tom, who's thinking of coming out, and Miriam, a semi-retired lesbian. Readers can see not only Margaret and her vexed relationship with Georgie, but also heterosexual, animal, and even vegetable parts of England outside London. I think that this seems like it's going to be very, like, an interesting little, like, both slice of life, but also maybe making some wry points about, like, life in southern England. It was published in 2005, which I now have to remind myself is quite a while ago. Doesn't feel like it to me, but it is. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what that's like. I also have In the Watchful City by Qiyouyi Lu. I am so intrigued by this one. This is like a really intriguing sounding science fiction. We follow an Anima, who is an extrasensory human tasked with surveilling and protecting Aura's citizens via a complex living network called the Gleaming. Essentially, a mysterious outsider enters this world with this cabinet of curiosities. Every item in this cabinet of curiosities has a story attached to it, and it starts to expand this Anima? Sorry, I'm very tired. I got off a plane yesterday. It starts to expand Anima's understanding of the world. That leaves Anima questioning their purpose. Very intriguing. I've heard mixed reviews of this, but I'm really intrigued by it. I'm hoping it's going to be like a very fresh piece of science fiction for me. Also a book on my Kindle that I'm thinking of reading is Seafire by Natalie C. Parker. All I really know about this is I think one of the characters is a lesbian and then they're pirates. Definitely queer women rep in this book, and definitely pirates. That's kind of all I really know. Sometimes I don't like to know too much about a book before going in. I'm aware that that makes me summing up in this less than good, but it's all I know. Moving on to my non-fiction, I'll start with the one that I've already started. This is Now You See Me, Lesbian Life Stories, edited by Traies. This will be very familiar to you if you watched my last video, where I hold a bunch of, like, historical books that I've bought recently. I think this sounds really interesting. It is based on archival research that Traies has done, and it is sort of exploring what ordinary lesbian life was like. Sort of my understanding is from around like World War II onwards is sort of when she was taking these testimonies of these women. It is split into like both topic and then person, so like Nobody Saw Us, Monica, Edith, Leo, Innocence and Ignorance, Kate, Marguerite. So I'm really interested in just, I think a lot of the time when I read non-fiction books, they often tend to be about like a person, like they could be, I don't know, like Forbidden Wales is famous LGBT people from Wales, and it's looking at like these big notable people, whereas this is like a much quieter history that has previously gone unacknowledged. This book is on my radar. It was published in 2018. It's on my radar because one of the, I think, I want to say Queer Bristol Facebook group, someone posted about it when it came out. I think the author did a talk in Bristol that I couldn't attend, but yeah, it's been sitting there in the back of my mind all this time. I'm sort of interested to get this, like, just an insight into like what being a lesbian was like for a lot of normal women in a particular time when you couldn't really speak openly about it. So I think that seems really interesting. I also have a tiny little book This is Beyond the Gender Binary by Alok, Vaid, Menon. I follow Alok on Instagram for a while, very interested in the sorts of discussions that they are having. This is just a tiny little, it's this little series, Pocket Change Collective. There are a few of these that are on my radar that I want to sort of just try out because they're so dinky. It's just a very concise little look at looking beyond the gender binary, some of the things to consider, some of the things to avoid when you're talking about that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think it's going to be very illuminating. I'm hoping that even though it's small, it will pack a real punch. I also have the Transgender Issue, An Argument for Justice by Shon Faye. I also follow Shon Faye on Twitter. I've heard nothing but good things about this book. It came out very, very recently. I have been doing a bit more reading around trans topics in the last few years. I posted a review very recently of Trans Britain, edited by Christine Burns, which was very helpful from a British perspective to understand like key pieces of legislation or groups that developed, that kind of thing. I'm hoping this will continue to sort of build on that base of understanding. And then finally, I also have Reckoning by Magda Szubanski. I said when I hauled this book, this was on my radar because of an Australian booktuber who by this point in my life I have forgotten who they were. Could be Leslie Rickman, could be someone else. But Magda Szubanski is a comedian. I have never seen any of her comedy work. This is Magda Szubanski's memoir. She came out very publicly as a lesbian in Australia, and I believe that it was very like big in the news cycle when it happened. But also this is just sort of like also her autobiography about her relationship with her father, who was a sniper. He was essentially he's Polish, and in World War II he was either like a sniper or like an assassin, like something like this, and it was very, very hard, and it sort of was something that very much stayed with him throughout his life and sort of had a shadow over her life as well. I have ever so slightly started this one, but not got very far on it yet. Yeah, that's kind of everything that I'm sort of planning off the top of my head to read. I sort of just like rifled through my book box and just sort of picked out these ones. I have a lot of other books that I may also get to if I have the time. I don't like to constrict myself too much, and just sort of like see where the month takes me, see what I crave. I would really love to hear if you have read any of these, if you have any thoughts on them. Also, if you're planning on doing any particular reading for Pride Month, I know that there are readathons going on. I am not doing them just because I wanted to give myself a little bit of flexibility and read these ones because these jumped out at me, but I would really like to hear if you're taking part in any readathons. What are they? What are you reading? Any other enthusings? Please do feel free to leave a comment. Always welcome. Otherwise, that's it from me for this week. I hope you're having a lovely day, and I will see you next time for something different.